All right, what's going on, everyone? This is going to be an audio-only episode right up front. So the picture you're seeing on the screen right now, it's not going to change, so you can walk away, listen to this in the background, or stare at the screen, I guess, if you want. It's not going to change. But we thought we'd test this out. This is not going to be the new norm. The standard videos with pictures and graphics alongside the commentary is going to continue to be the standard. But there are some times coming up where I might not be able to put together a fully edited video, but there's still a lot of information coming out. So we thought we'd test what audio only looks like here on YouTube. If nobody watches or all the feedback is negative, this might not be something we do very often. But yeah, let me know how you feel about this, how you're able to take in this information in the comments below. And with that, let's dive on in to the Deep South insurgency in Thailand. So although the Thai government has been in peace talks with South Thailand's largest insurgent group for 3 years, the region remains under threat. This low-level insurgency has persisted since a major escalation in 2004, and there are currently few prospects for a long-term political solution. Looking at some of the newer attacks in 2023, there were a handful, particularly around election dates, which are believed to have been conducted as part of efforts to project strength and try to gain leverage over Bangkok. On August 28th, insurgents killed 4 people, 2 police and 2 provincial security officers, and injured 4 others in an ambush shootout in Patani. Nearby, IEDs destroyed 5 utility poles, causing local blackouts. These attacks came days after Thailand's new prime minister was elected on August 22nd, following a series of controversial elections in May. Then 2 days before those May 14th elections, insurgents killed 1 Army Ranger and wounded 3 others in a roadside blast in Yala. Insurgents also conducted arson attacks at 23 different locations across the country, burning mobile antenna towers, power poles, and tires. Then on April 14th, insurgents engaged in gunfights and bomb attacks along rail routes in the Deep South. The 6 simultaneous attacks occurred on the last day of Ramadan and mostly targeted security forces. Then on October 21st, insurgents launched coordinated attacks in the Tak Bai district. They used IEDs and opened fire on security forces, destroying more power poles and planting IEDs, some of which were found before detonating. These attacks in October took place just a few days before the anniversary of the 2004 Tak Bai massacre, in which over 80 civilian protesters died from suffocation or being crushed inside military trucks after they were arrested and stacked on top of one another. That protest was against the detention of Malay Muslim locals by Thai security forces. Now, Thai security forces continue to be worried about the potential for large-scale IED attacks, especially in the south. In November 2022, a car bomb killed at least 1 person and injured over 30 after insurgents attacked a police barracks there, and really violence has been on an upward trend since 2020. In 2022, there were 69 IED attacks documented compared to 33 in 2020 and 19 in 2021. All of this is despite the government entering into peace talks with the National Revolutionary Front, or BRN, in January 2020 via back channels. The BRN's active armed wing was not technically included in these peace talks between Bangkok and multiple insurgent groups in the 2010s, which was a major reason for much of the violence that occurred that decade. Now, looking into some of the key players in this ongoing insurgency, again, we have the National Revolutionary Front, or BRN, founded in the 1960s. This is the largest and most active Malay Muslim insurgent group in Thailand's Deep South. They've been described as the Taliban of Thailand, led by religious scholars heading madrasas, from which most of their recruitment comes. The conflict in the Deep South remains highly localized and hasn't really come under the banner of any sort of global jihad, despite some previous attempts by pro-Islamic State channels to kind of pull them into their orbit. The motto of the National Revolutionary Front is religion, ethnicity, homeland. Most of their weapons that they've been able to acquire are come from raiding security forces in the region, so most of what you see the BRN running around with are military-issued weapons for the Thai military. They're estimated to be around 8,000 to 9,000 fighters in total that mostly operate in small, clandestine-type cells. They usually do not claim responsibility for their attacks and really don't have much of a presence at all on social media, which is a difference from a lot of these small insurgent-type groups around the world. The BRN is capable of conducting an array of attacks, including bombings, gunfights, targeted killings, ambushes, arson, and more. Primary targets include security forces, religious minorities, infrastructure, and government officials. When looking at some of the simultaneous attacks carried out across the Deep South over the last few years, on August 17th, 2022, the BRN conducted bomb and arson attacks across 17 locations in the Deep South. That is significant. The coordination that it takes to carry something like that out is a major, major effort. And then in March 2020, during a meeting between government officials, at least 25 people were killed in another bomb attack there. Now, on rare occasions, the BRN has been implicated in attacks in Bangkok. For instance, in 2019, 4 people were injured in a series of low-scale bomb attacks during a summit for the Southeast Asian nations in Bangkok. Now, the BRN is not the only insurgent group operating in the South. There are some other organizations there as well. The Patani United Liberation Organization, or PULO, is one of the oldest insurgent groups, also formed in the 1960s. The PULO conducted twin bombings in April 2022, reportedly because it had been sidelined in ongoing peace talks. Then there's also community leaders, elders, and religious figures that hold a lot of influence over the population, where clan and familial ties actually play a very, very significant role. And there's been some cases where local leaders have actually asked militants to surrender during these raids, kind of serving as the in-between between the militant organizations, the insurgent organizations, and the Thai government. Now, there's been a pretty significant lack of progress on peace talks, which has motivated violence and hindered any sort of near-term resolution. For example, between 2004 and 2023, over 7,300 people have been killed and more than 14,000 have been injured. The BRN continues to carry out attacks despite the start of peace talks between their leaders and Bangkok in 2020, and Thai security forces have killed at least 64 BRN insurgents between April of 2020 and April of 2022. Something notable there is all of these insurgents fought to the death. Throughout all of these different engagements and raids, only one rebel surrendered after being caught in a standoff. And all of this continued violence is despite BRN announcing a unilateral ceasefire in April 2020 due to the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. Then in 2022, following a 40-day Ramadan ceasefire, Thailand requested a mutual extension for Buddhist Lent. However, the BRN did not comply and went on to conduct additional attacks. In 2023, the BRN announced a stop to peace talks, saying that they would not negotiate until a new Thai government came into power. The current Thai government is made up of the military and a party backed by a former prime minister, and insurgents just straight up do not trust either one of them and blame both parties for escalating the conflict and using excessive force in the early 2000s. Then in mid-2022, negotiations broke down again after Bangkok failed to sign a blueprint for future peace talks. This was out of concern that officially acknowledging the separatists, the insurgents, would legitimize them, in a sense, a major hindrance in past peace talks. Now, the BRN also wants to involve international monitoring teams. Thailand has historically sought to prevent any sort of internationalization of this conflict and really have tried to kind of divert any sort of international attention away from this. There are also concerns that some BRN fighters may not support their leadership settling for autonomy within the Thai state and continue to fight for independence. And this is a challenge with any insurgency. As the leaders, as the insurgents come about, all they know is fighting, all they know is pushing back against the entity that is. As soon as they are recognized as the legitimate force, sometimes a group of those fighters say, we don't want this. We're going to keep fighting. This isn't what we actually are fighting for. Now, the new Thai government appointed a civilian as the head of the Thai negotiation delegation in late 2023. However, previous negotiators were all from the military, which led to a pretty significant amount of distrust during the process. Now, while this does seem like a step in the right direction, a positive move, a civilian negotiator does not necessarily have the authority to make decisions on key issues involving the military. I mean, the Thai military is deeply entrenched in Thai politics and society and has been responsible, actually, for a handful of coups over the years. And any discussions right now that do not involve the military could lack legitimacy going forward. So attacks by groups such as the PULO, as well as the BRN, indicate that even if the current peace talks progress, some of these other insurgent groups could continue to stage attacks for being ignored, not involved in this process going forward. So what it all looks like right now is that the continuance of attacks highlights the possibility of further escalation in Thailand's Deep South. So Bangkok appears to have little interest in achieving a resolution, as it's pretty distracted with a new government that's focused on economic growth and improving the country's overall energy supply. Now, the appointment of a civilian negotiator and a lack of military interest in peace could signal a major military crackdown moving forward, which, as expected, would likely lead to intensified fighting on both sides. But that's all I've got for now. Thank you to Uday Bakshi for his research on this topic. You can find more of Uday's work at the link in the description below. And let me know what you think. How is the audio-only episode? It's a little different. This is not going to be the norm going forward, but just interested in your feedback. But thanks for listening. I'll see y'all next time.